men's racing coach at UCSB. And we're delighted to have him here to tell us about racing and the university. JP learned how to row in high school at St. Ignatius College. Well, it's a college and a preparatory school. Okay. At St. Ignatius College Prep in San Francisco, and he continued to row in college for the University of California, Berkeley. After college, he began coaching at St. Ignatius College as the freshman coach. In 2006, he accepted a graduate assistantship at Marietta College in Ohio, where he earned a Master's of Arts in Education and coached the novice crew. And while he was there, he was instrumental in rebuilding the men's team with successful recruiting, and his efforts helped get the crews back into the grand finals and earning medals at various different regattas. In 2017, he found his dream job and his current appointment as head coach of men's rowing at UCSB, where he's also pursuing a PhD in education leadership and organizational theory. He earned the rank of Eagle Scout, and he enjoys yoga, trail running, surfing, and both road and mountain biking. Got to stay active and do all kinds of things. He was recognized as the Men's Coach of the Year in the American Collegiate Rowing Association in 2019, and has led his teams to several medal winnings. And we're delighted to have him here to tell us about UCSB's Boys in the Boat. Welcome, John, and the mic is yours.
Yeah, thanks for having me, everyone. And also special thanks, my advisor, Dr. Sharon Conley, for kind of setting this up and getting this going for me. It was a really neat process, putting this together for me, both just a personal reflection on my own accomplishments and my own role within the university and the rowing team. So if I have share privileges, I have a slide presentation, and I could share my screen.
Mm-hmm. Oh, did Barbara disappear?
You should have privileges.
Yep, there we go.
There we are.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
All right, so is everyone seeing my screen now?
Yep.
Yep, it looks good.
Great. Okay, so UCSB's Boys in the Boat. Again, this is just my little intro here, which was sort of recounted already, so I won't really go through that too much. But yeah, I've been in rowing for about 20 years, more than that actually. I started rowing, when I was 14, and I'm 41 now, so my whole career has been in rowing. So it's been very much a way of life for me, and it's been I've gone through different iterations, as an athlete, as a coach. I worked in the business side and sold boats for about 10 years. And then now in coaching again, and in the PhD program in education at UCSB, really diving in deeper to the organizational, psychological aspects of how individuals act in an organization. And that's been really, the team has really been like a lab for me, a human lab to study behavior. There's a lot of different approaches I think people can take to coaching. Obviously the human performance side, physiological, and I've always been interested in the psychological side of the individual motivations and the sort of the team dynamics. So the graduate program has been really the perfect complement for helping me understand my own coaching style. So yeah, this is just a brief history of collegiate rowing. It began in the late 1800s. The Harvard-Yale race was pretty much the start of college sport, to be honest. And on the West Coast, kind of mirrored, in the early 1900s with the Cal Washington race. So, and that was, the Boys in the Boat. If anyone's read that book, that really highlighted that rivalry and with Joe Mance, rowing up at Washington there. Um, so yeah, club versus varsity. Not all teams are the same. There are varsity programs that are funded by the university, and many offer scholarships at the D1 and D2 level. There is a D3 level as well, which is supported by the university, but no scholarships. And then clubs like us are self-funded through student dues. So our students pay about $2,000 a year. And then there's different levels of management in rowing clubs. So we're fortunate that, like my position at the university is full-time. I have benefits. And there's some rowing clubs out there that don't have that. And they're just a collection of students with some boats, and the coaches are volunteers. So really there's a lot of different levels to collegiate rowing. So there's been some recent major developments in collegiate rowing, and this kind of gives you a feel for the landscape. So in 1997, under Title IX, women's rowing became an NCAA varsity sport to balance out the number of men's athletes that are, in collegiate athletics, and a lot of scholarship opportunities. So at one point, it was about 50% of junior women could probably earn some type of a scholarship in rowing. Whereas you take football, it's more like, 0.5% of athletes are going to get a scholarship. So, and because of that, we're now 20 years out from that, we're starting to see more women in the coaching ranks. So that's really telling of how far sport has come for women, but also, how far it still can go as it develops. And then in 2007, the Men's Rowing Association, this is the college governing body, voted to exclude club programs from competing at their national championship. And that was largely a response to sort of protect the teams from being demoted to club status. Rutgers University was demoted to club status. And so the IRA voted to exclude club programs as a way of, showing that universities, warning them that, if they wanted to participate in the national level, they'd have to keep the sport as a varsity sport. But since then, that varsity men's side, that regatta has really shrunk, while club programs have really grown. And a lot of clubs have, found ways to hire professional coaches, find jobs for them on campus as university employees. And so it's really neat to me when I look at a lot of things is just the unintended consequences of these types of policy decisions. So at UCSB, we began rowing in 1965, and it was men's only, and the women were kind of like a cheerleading role, the Shell and Oar Society, before they began rowing in 1976. So since then, we're one of the largest now and fastest club programs in the country. We regularly win our conference, which has some varsity programs, not the top varsity programs, but still university funded nonetheless. And then I was talking a little bit early before the rest of the group got on. I call it kind of the last pure collegiate sport. It is one of the few sports that a student with no experience can walk on in college and train and work their way up to an Olympic or national team. Now it's rare. That's not to say that everyone's going to do that, but it is possible. So yeah, we attract a lot of former high school athletes that want to continue competing in college, and in addition to some people that have never done a sport in their life. So a lot of walks of life come to, sorry, my dad keeps trying to call in. So a lot of students come on, so a lot of different walks of life, athletes, non-athletes, and hopefully by the end of their experience, we turn them into athletes. This is a basic diagram of an 8. Now there are 8s, there are 4s, there are pairs, and there are singles. This is just the basics of an 8. And so you have a starboard side, you know, much like sailing, and a port side. Um, you know, so the boat is traveling in this direction towards the bow, and the rowers are sitting facing backwards. So the coxswain is steering the boat, and it's, as you see, it's about 55 feet long, and they weigh about 200 pounds. So it takes some coordination of 9 people to get the boat off the racks and into the water. And then this is the basic phases of the rowing stroke. A lot of people, when they find out I row or I coach, they do the you must have big arms, you know. And it's actually, as you see, the legs are the main driving force. Although it is a full body workout, the legs are the driving force. It's supported through the core, and you know, and the arms finish the stroke. So it really is a total body workout. And so, yeah, just kind of give you a little bit of understanding there. And this was me at Masters Nationals in 2014. As you can see, you know, we have a sliding seat. My feet are fixed, so I can press the legs down and drive the oar. And the boat is traveling, you know, I'm facing backwards. So, and there's the coxswain there in the background, you know, steering, making calls, and driving forward. So now, yeah, where do we train? A lot of people ask, you know, if we row on the harbor. We prefer flat water. We like it calm. As you can see, they're very very shallow, very close to the water. So we row on Lake Cachuma, and the novices actually learn on campus at the lagoon. If you're familiar with campus, the lagoon there, that's where they all start out. This is our boathouse here up Lake Cachuma. Really fortunate to have this facility. It is such an amazing, beautiful place. And I think, you know, out of a campus of, you know, 20, 30,000 people, you know, this collection of, you know, 80 to 100 students get to go up there. It really is a nice balance of the entire region, being able to go to college on the coast, and then being able to have this just, you know, beautiful mountain lake campground type setting. So
Nice.
And so how do we get to the lake? Our teams depart campus at 5:15 using school vans. And if anyone has kids with a driver's license, and you know, you worry about them when they get on the road, I can promise you, I wake up every morning at 4:30 a.m. and the biggest thing I'm thinking about is just hoping that everybody gets up there safely. That's just the underlying driving thing that occupies me as I'm driving to the lake in the morning, is making sure all 100 or so kids are getting up there and getting back safely. So in fall and winter, we go up Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday mornings. And then in the spring, as we move towards our championship stretch, we go up 6 days a week. We have a lot of rowing machines that we utilize. This is a Rob Gym here, and I have an office in this building as well. And so we do these, you know, 3 days a week and sometimes 5 days a week in the wintertime. So those are like treadmills, and we spend a lot of time on those machines. So I like to get creative. I like to do fun things. So one of the things I organized during, this is winter camp, I worked with Core Power Yoga in Santa Barbara to get in a yoga camp. So we rode every morning, we did the ergs, and then we had a yoga session in the afternoon. So we got, you know, 80 or so people in this one room, which really just strikes me now looking at this room and just how different a yoga class would look now with, you know, distancing and just, you know, being outside and everything. So God, my parents keep calling. So yeah, yeah, and I was really proud to be able to like put together these things, and a lot of these student athletes in this room have gone on to pursue yoga teacher training after taking these classes. So it's kind of neat being able to introduce them, you know, having never really done a class like this before, and then going on to teacher training. So Another thing that I'm really proud of is we got all 100 student athletes to hike up Gaviota Peak. So we do that at the end of spring break. And I like to use a lot of metaphor and analogy. And so when we got up there, this was kind of the speech that I gave them. We face many mountains in life. Some are by choice and some because there's simply no other way around them. We closed out spring break with a team hike, and we chose, or rather I chose, to climb this mountain as a way to take a moment to look back on our accomplishments thus far, both in life and on the water. And we do it as a team together. And it's important not to lose perspective on this, especially as we look to the mountains that lie ahead. So one thing's for sure, you make it up one mountain, you look off into the horizon, there's always going to be another mountain to climb. And how we compete. So in the fall, it's called the head race season. And this is kind of like a cross country season. The races are typically 5K or about 3.2 miles. And they can take about anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes. The Head of the Charles is perhaps the most famous. And boats raced one at a time down the race course against a clock. And that's really fun to watch just because all day long is just one boat after the other coming down the race course. So it's really kind of a neat thing to see. But the spring is called the sprint season or the championship season. And so this is like a track season where boats line up 6 to 8 across and they all start together. So they race 1.25 miles. And those races typically take about 6 minutes. And those are really exciting too, as you'll see that there's often some really close finishes. And it's not common, but a team can lose every race of the season. But if they win this final championship, they are the champions, and no one really remembers the the losses. So our schedule in the fall, we go to the Head of the Charles in Boston, Head of the American in Sacramento, and then in spring we have the UC Challenge, which is again in Newport. We go to San Diego again. Our WIRA Championship, the West Coast Intercollegiate Rowing Association, is up in Sacramento. And then ACRA, the American Collegiate Rowing Association, is in Gainesville, Georgia. And so throwing in a little bit of my research literature here, and Dr. Conley, forgive me for not using a proper citation, but one of the papers I read, this is kind of how I like to sort of govern the team is not necessarily from me top down, but creating a culture where the beliefs and the norms that characterize the group are both widely shared and strongly held. So that acts as a strong way of social control system to shape the members' attitudes and behaviors. And I find that's the most efficient way. I mean, I could say one thing, but if the team buys in and they adopt it for themselves, that's going to have a much stronger effect on creating that team culture. And so along that, so in spring quarter, the college, they all go dry. They do it as a commitment to themselves and a commitment to their performance. And again, this is just part of that same piece by Charles Riley. Punishment for failing to adhere to the norms may be exclusion, which becomes a very strong way of enforcing those norms. So when everybody on the team is agreeing to go dry, and you got 1 or 2 guys that want to go out and party one night, they really can see some blowback from the rest of the team. And that's going to be much stronger than me saying, don't drink. You got to, we got a race this weekend. Don't drink. Much stronger when it comes from within. And so, yeah, just a couple of events, Head of the Charles, we took 3rd in the 4 back in 2019. And that was kind of one of the last major competitions. And I make kind of a joke, on how I choose lineups. If you can see the hairstyle, I choose them by hairstyle. And then this gives you a sample. So we had Orange Coast College visit and do a scrimmage every January. So this is a glimpse of what it looks like when boats are racing. So we got 6/8 across. Really an amazing thing to see. You know, 9 people in a boat times 6, you got 54 people just driving. And so this is kind of what it would look like racing. So we got 3 Orange Coast boats and 3 UC Santa Barbara boats, really having some tight competition here. So we'll just play it one more time. And you can see the legs driving there, rowers facing backwards.
Is that the college out of Huntington Beach?
Newport Beach.
Oh, Newport.
And then this was our Western Intercollegiate Rowing Association in Sacramento. We're up here in the top boat. This is Santa Clara. They won it. This is UC San Diego here. Then this is Orange Coast here. So you see, this was a photo finish. You could see how close a boat race can be. Santa Clara is a varsity program. UC San Diego is a varsity program, so they can recruit. They have some scholarship money. We don't. We've taught a lot of our guys how to row from scratch. And so we're very proud to be able to compete at this level with these types of teams and be, you know, less than a second out of that gold medal finish there. Bittersweet, certainly proud of that finish, but it would have been nice to have been just in front. And then the American Collegiate Rowing Association. So this is our national championships. We go out every May. That's in Gainesville, Georgia on the 1996 Olympic course. And this was a huge challenge. 100 student athletes, 4 charter buses to LAX, 2 flights. We had 22 rental cars and 20 hotel rooms. Trip costs about $85,000, so that comes from student dues. And it's not simple as just saying, all right, you 50 students on this flight, you 50 on this flight. We have to arrange them based on their lineups because the races start on different days. And so we need certain lineups to get out there earlier and other lineups to get out there. And so this is a year-long process. We book 100 tickets in, say, October, and we're constantly switching names, and we only have a limited number of name changes. And I think we finished the year with maybe like 95 plane tickets. So booking 100 tickets in October, we got 95% accuracy. And that was a, that was a you know, fitting a square peg in a round hole type puzzle all year long. And this is just a fun thing. This is how I conceptualize the whole journey out to races. This is how we travel to races. So,
Wow.
And in actuality, this is how it's done. So this is our truck and trailer of you know, probably $500,000 worth of equipment on the back there. And this was a little stop in Texas. Of course, I'm on a 4-day journey from Santa Barbara out to Atlanta, Georgia. And I certainly like to stop and make sure that I enjoy little things along the way when I can. So I picked up some jerky and you know, like to see a little bit. The last trip I took, actually, the check engine light came on in outside Phoenix. So I stopped in Phoenix, had to take the truck into the Chevy dealer, lost about 6 hours and had to make it up. And fortunately, I was driving with some hurricanes or tornadoes across the Midwest, which gave me a little bit of a tailwind. I was able to kind of push it a little and made up some time. So you really run into some extreme environmental things driving a rig like that cross country. I've driven through blizzards. I've driven through, you know, heavy winds. I've had blowouts. I've gotten into a wreck years ago, and you just have to be prepared and have some ideas of what you might do in case you run into something like that. And this was the grand final of the national championship. There's UCSB and the gold jerseys out there. Michigan was the winner. We got Virginia here, North Carolina, Boston College was in there, Orange Coast. Incredible close race in a driving rainstorm in Georgia. Came up a little bit short, but just still an impressive sight to see this coming down the race course. So now I want to move on to the research paper. So this is the research that I've done with Dr. Conley in my education program. and really I look to the organizational literature in industry. And when I started reading it, it's hard not to apply it to a team setting, because really what this comes down to is there's 100 individuals, men, women, freshmen, sophomores, juniors, all different races, ethnicities, orientations, in a small space. There's different levels of experience on the coaching staff. There's conflicts that are going to come up, and it's almost like a large family. You know, when everyone wants to use the bathroom, there's going to be conflicts, but you move through them, and you don't let them become, you know, divisions. So that's the important thing, is that there are going to be conflicts. We don't let them become divisions. And these were some of the basic ideas that I look at, both to evaluate myself and as I started moving into the paper. Does leadership type affect performance? And performance being a couple different things, you know, wins and losses, but then also, you know, the success of just getting a team through the year on budget, and keeping a GPA high. I mean, those are all aspects of performance that I think go unnoticed under the wins and losses. So what types of leadership work well with what teams? You know, I work with college men and women. That's a different type of leadership than if I was working with, say, an 8-year-old, you know, swim team. You know, that's a different environment. I mean, college students can make a lot of good decisions on their own for what's good for them. 8-year-olds need full direction, you know, and then get into a, you know, an investment banking firm. I mean, that's going to be a different type of leadership as well. So what are some of the types of behaviors used by coaches to keep their athletes interested? Because, you know, what keeps me interested in this sport is not going to be the same thing that keeps my athletes interested. Some are interested in going fast. Some are just doing it because their friends are on the team. Some are doing it because their parents did, and they're not really sure why they're there other than their parents did it. But so we use all of those individual motivations to achieve a team goal, and that team motivation hopefully helps the individuals realize their own efforts. So, and then, can my leadership style, can I reduce the effects of burnout? This is a repetitive action sport. It can get boring, it can get tiring, and it can get easy for someone to say, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. I just want to do school. What can I do to help alleviate some of the effects there? Because keeping a large team is part of being able to be successful. You know, if I keep losing athletes, you're going to be losing races. So yeah, I focus a lot on organizational identity, motivation, rewards. If you look in this picture here, we've got trophies, we've got medals, we've got smiles, we've got big UCSB on their chest. I mean, this is a moment these guys are going to remember forever. The medals and the, you know, the trophies are, you know, external rewards. You know, the smiles, definitely satisfied with a job well done. They work all year long, and, you know, the gold medal isn't, you know, we're not all about wins and losses, but I tell them winning a race is like getting an A on a paper. You know, if you work really hard at it and you know, you get an A. If you wait to the last minute and, you know, cram the night before, yeah, you might hope for an A, but if you get a B, you know, you shouldn't be disappointed because you really didn't put the work in. So the gold medal is really just representative of a job well done, work put in, and executed to perfection. This is just some of the literature. I'm not going to spend too much time on here, but, you know, I look at, you know, this is coaching styles and athlete satisfaction, Malaysian basketball, leadership styles, you know, in hockey. So it highlights, you know, the areas of coaching behavior, the actual behavior that I exhibit. You know, what are the behaviors that are required to get the job done? And then what's the preferred behavior that the athletes respond to? This piece here helped me really understand my role on campus. For a lot of these athletes, this is the best thing that they do at UCSB. This is the most this is the part that they remember when they go to reunions 20 years down the road. They go to the rowing reunion. You know, the people in their weddings are going to be the people they rowed with. And so I view myself as a retention specialist. what I do is I help connect them to the university. And a lot of the research has shown that if student athletes participate in recreation and campus activities, there's a greater likelihood that they're going to come back for the next year. So there is a financial benefit for the university to have activities like this. So last spring, we distributed 90 surveys via email. It was going to be in paper, but happened to do this survey right as COVID hit. I remember meeting with Dr. Conley, in mid-March and kind of right before this all shut down. And of the respondents, we had about half and half, male and female, pretty good spread between the different classes. Transfers are interesting because they come in and a lot of times, they're third-year students, but they're juniors, they've been friends for 3 years and they're now brand new to the organization. So they're kind of an interesting one. You can see the racial, ethnic background. It's still largely a white sport, and rowing as a sport is trying to shed that elitist, white Northeast image to be more inclusive, and it's getting there, but it still has a long way to go. So what I looked at, one of the questions, I feel like I belong on this team. Definitely they have a strong sense of belonging, highly inclusive of diverse backgrounds. For the most part, they would agree. This, does concern me because even though it's only, maybe 1 or 2 people that disagree, that still indicates that there is something that we could be doing to be more inclusive and to make sure that they feel more included. These are some of the qualitative results. And this is really interesting for college students in general, I think. Appearing cool and funny. I mean, that's basic young people growing up. Act differently around the men's team. That's, men and women interaction. That's why I think it's great to have men and women on the same team is when they go into the workforce, they're going to have to interact with men and women. Social anxiety. I remember talking to my assistant coach. I was telling him about the students. I was going down the roster. I said, yeah, this guy's kind of uncomfortable. This guy's a little nervous. This guy's a little unsure of himself. And I got to the conclusion. I was like, wow, the majority of, college students are just, unsure. Like even if they come across as self-assured, when you get down to it, there's a lot of nervousness, anxiety to just growing up and how they appear to each other. So we had some, there are some, suggestions for increasing inclusiveness. And so this was a really helpful thing for me to discover. Leadership behavior towards members, again, for the most part, supportive and encouraging. Knows what kind of team they want and communicates it. These small outliers here, I'm going to say that you're not going to always satisfy everybody. And as a coach, you kind of have to be able to roll with it. Not everyone's going to agree with your decisions if they're not in the right boat, but I would still be curious to expand on these just to see what was going on there. So, we did have some suggestions here. Again, this was neat. Clear expectations, not only by the coach, but also by the athletes. And so I think that's good. Again, like I was talking about earlier, it has to come from within. And I try to really to put that out there. So, and then again, this is some stuff on leadership, where the roles are filled by people who care about the team. And leading by example. So sometimes the fastest person on the team doesn't need to be the president. The fastest person on the team needs to be the fastest person on the team. The president needs to be someone who really cares about administration, and sometimes that's the same person, but the fastest person on the team doesn't always need to shoulder that administrative role as well. And then here, people in leadership positions can sometimes get wrapped up in themselves being a leader and forget to be there for the teammates. So it was hard. I at first did not want to write because this was the start of the pandemic. I did not want to include a piece on the pandemic. And Dr. Conley again said, we really should. And I found how much, it was really heartbreaking in March when we found out we were going to lose our season. You could read some of the comments here, less motivation, hard to stay motivated, destroyed all the motivation, harder to focus in school. Perhaps some of you can relate with some of that in your own lives, but it really was heartbreaking for the students. And as a coach, I like to have control, and I had no control over being able to offer anything or do anything we had Zooms and team meetings and stuff like that, but still, there's nothing I could do to bring back rowing in the form that we wanted. Again, more, pandemic sucks, loss of motivation, upset and saddened, losing connections with the team. The sport was my life. So it really does show you how deeply invested in this activity they are. This question was encouraging to me as a coach. Really nobody wanted to not continue other than just that they were graduating. So that was kind of just lets me know that I'm doing my job correctly, is that the only reason that they wanted to leave the team was that they no longer had, they were moving on from college. And again, down here, being worse at the sport, it's like, well, I can't really do anything about that. So the conclusions for the paper, coaches, we're psychological support for these student athletes. COVID-19, there's going to be a whole lot of, I think, literature coming out on stuff like this. We play a big role in motivation and retention and diversity. Despite having what appears to be a diverse membership, still there's going to be some members from diverse backgrounds who don't feel like they belong. And so, I think those efforts, as membership changes from year to year, have to be ongoing and reevaluated as that membership changes. So I'd like to just wrap up with some coaching and leadership styles and some thoughts on management. So I consider myself a visionary leader with an emphasis on human resources. You got to have a clear goal, a clear vision for the season, for the organization, and you got to have some good milestones to get there, so they know where they're going and they know how to get there. And these are some of the things that I say, throughout the year. Getting out of bed is the hardest part, but it's not enough to just show up. You got to give an honest effort, and that's all I ask. Give an honest effort. You don't have to go above and beyond your own capabilities. Just give it your honest effort. Everyone contributes, so I don't focus just on the fastest guys. You got to focus on everybody. I try to say everyone's name every day during practice. Give them a technical feedback or let them know that you are watching them and that you're not just watching the fast guys. You're ignoring, the bottom guys. You got to be paying attention to everybody to keep them engaged. And if you put in the effort and the work, you will see the results. And I place a big emphasis on retaining, because the 4-year guys, those are the ones that are going to get you the championships. This can't be a one and done type season. It really does take that development, because, a 22-year-old is a completely different person than an 18-year-old. And so having that 4 years of work and watching, some skinny freshmen come in and put muscle on, or some out of shape, freshmen come in and really trim down and turn into an athlete. It really is a neat process over, the course of 4 years. So as far as the management, so that's the leadership, that's the on the water in practice stuff. This is the administrative, this is planning that trip to Georgia. This is some of the things that I've adopted over the years. If it happens, you're responsible. If it doesn't happen, you're responsible. So that's I think a far cry from a well-known I take no responsibility. So successful leadership comes from doing the management part correctly. So having a clear vision, careful goals, milestones, communicating that to the membership, that's the management part, and that'll get you the leadership part that people buy into. If they don't trust your management style, they're not going to trust the leadership. They're not going to buy into the system. And so those two are closely related. And again, to borrow from research, a great deal of organizational behavior is influenced by managing informational and normative influence and promoting social control. So this implies that influential managers spend time modifying situations and creating conditions that facilitate the desired behaviors. Now, it's interesting to note that this is also in, building corporations or building a cult. And I think also just good hard work is a philosophy of how I run the program. So that's that. Again, yeah, thanks. Questions?
Thank you. That's great. There are some questions in the chat.
Okay, yeah, I see the chat there.
I can read one. Is there a strategy for placing a specific athlete in a specific location in the shell? Are the shells inspected, weighed before each race, and are there any flexibilities in design?
Yeah, and I can see that last one's probably borrowed from sailing. I think there are classes where I think, all the boats are exactly the same. But yeah, there is a strategy for placing athletes. Typically, in front of the coxswain, the stroke pair or the lead guys, they're kind of the pace setters. They're typically more athletic or more skilled in technical, rowing. The middle guys, the middle four guys are usually kind of just the biggest, strongest guys. And then in the bow, again, just really, athletic, quick and agile athletes. And then the shells they're inspected for safety. There are certain safety things in there, kind of hard to get into right here, but there are weighing, they do get weighed at certain big regattas, which is kind of funny because they use the men's Olympic category as the minimum weight, which does not make sense for like a women's lightweight race. You've got 130-pound women, they're going to be rowing a smaller boat than, Olympic-sized men. So, but unfortunately that would be something to take up with US rowing. But yeah, for the most part during the season, they're not weighed. When you get to the championships, they are weighed, and sometimes it's necessary to add a little bit of weight. And then the coxswains, for the men's coxswain has to be a minimum of 125 pounds. For women, it's 110 pounds. And so if they're under that, they have to carry weight. So the coxswain, you can't just get like an 80-pound, small person. They would have to carry, 40 pounds of weight with them in their seat. So, and then, yeah, question is, yeah, can you expand applying these theories to master's programs, like master's rowing or master's in education?
So this is Diana. I have the pleasure of rowing at Lake Cachuma now with Mission Rowing, and I'm also the only rower on their board.
Okay.
And so they obviously have a lot of focus on different age groups and building programs for middle school and high school teams. So masters is kind of there. We're all novices, but a lot of the theories you just talked about, it would be really interesting to try to apply those, because we find ourselves out there during COVID as this group of people that came together, but we don't have any rower leaders. We don't have anyone focused on building a team atmosphere. But I feel like even as a 55-year-old novice rower, I still crave those things that I had when I was on teams when I was younger. So it just would be interesting to know your thoughts on if this can kind of transfer over to other environments besides collegiate.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I've coached masters in the past, and without really knowing the membership I'm familiar with Mission Rowing, and I've known Connell and Carol for many years. But without really knowing the membership, it would be tough to say right here. And again, just going back to my team, masters rowing it's unique in that, you know, some people come out there, they just want to be on the water. You know, some people were athletes, you know, growing up, and they like that, you know, aspect of sport. Some are just want to learn something new. Some just want to be around people, you know, and, you know, some want to compete, some don't. And so without really knowing all of those motivations, and then again, like you said, coming together all as novices, you don't really have, there are some really established master's programs in the country. There are master's groups this year and next year. And then if you wanted to compete and join that competitive group and go to races, you could jump in that. But being in this point in time where everyone is kind of in this novice category, and like you said, you don't have that sort of upper level to kind of look at or strive to, that would be sort of the part that there's not that existing knowledge of, you know, competition already that's there. And so I could see that you want it, but it's like, it's hard to really find a direction to go to when you don't have that upper level to look at. Whereas I have the varsity senior level guys, and then I have the novices. So the novices have that example to look to. But yeah, it definitely could apply, I think, in, you know, in many different types of organizations.
Good.
And then, yeah, is Lake Kachuma permanently set up with, so we don't put buoys up. We don't race on Lake Kachuma. It's not a great race course because, you know, there's really not good spectator access. And so when we race, we don't race on Kachuma. We race in Sacramento, San Diego, Newport. So we just train, you know, we'll do a lot of timed pieces. We might drop a couple of buoys, you know, for some like 500-meter pieces and stuff, but yeah, we don't buoy it, every time. But yeah, some lakes do have race courses all the time.
John, when you took the boats to Gainesville, were you by yourself?
Yep.
Oh,
Yep. So I would
And-
drive probably, you know, 8 to 10 hours a day, stay in a hotel somewhere, get dinner. Yeah, on the way out, I stopped in Phoenix, and then I stopped in West Texas. I forget the name of the town. Then I stopped in Shreveport, Louisiana, and then I made it to Gainesville on the 4th day. And on the return, I took a little more northerly route because there were big rainstorms along the lower portion. So I stopped in Arkansas, and then I think I made it to Amarillo, and then Flagstaff, and then Santa Barbara on day 4.
Wow, that's a trek.
Yeah, and it's kind of a nice, it is a kind of a spiritual journey. The 4 days on the way out allow me to kind of reflect on, you know, look forward to the racing. And then the 4 days on the way back, you know, after the racing's done, it allows me to sort of look back on the whole year and evaluate some things, think about things for next year. So.
Good.
And,
And are you kind of a high-profile vehicle? So you watch the weather, or is it a heavy?
yeah, you got to watch the weather. So when there's high wind, you know, and light truck advisories, I mean, you know, you might do well to pull off and stop for the night.
Right. Good.
And we'll oftentimes, you know, because everyone's driving out, you know, we'll be in touch with some of the other teams, you know, calling them, hey, where you at? What's the weather like up there? You know, and so forth. So.
Good.
Let's see. A favorite memory is being on retreat on the Charles River. Oh yeah, no, it is great. And that is a lot of fun being out there in Boston, because that's like, you know, the capital of rowing.
All right. Good.
Did you see that last question about rowing in England?
I don't see one on England.
Oh,
Oh, there. Oh, yeah. Wait.
wait, it says, what about rowing in England on the Thames? Oh my
On
gosh,
the
I'm
Thames?
really killing that name.
Oh, yeah.
Thames.
Yes, that's the Thames. Yeah, and that's Henley. I haven't gone yet. I would like to someday. I would like to take a crew out there, but I personally haven't been yet. But that would be a lot of fun to go out there.
Mm. Good.
And then do races ever get canceled due to? Yep. So the only time they'll get canceled is high fog, high wind, or lightning. So if there's heavy rain, I mean we're still going to compete. But yeah, fog, lightning, and high wind, we're going to stay off the water.
Good. Now, John, you have 100 people in the club. Do you have fixed teams, people who row with each other, or do you shift them as skill levels develop and
Yeah, so they're broken up into
something?
yeah. So varsity men, varsity women, novice men, novice women, and then so on the varsity men, for example, we have the varsity 8, the second varsity 8, the third varsity 8, the lightweight 8, the lightweight 4, and so forth. So there's different events there, and that's what I was talking about, getting everyone involved. So you need all of those events to win a regatta, and so I'm not just focusing on the varsity 8. You got to focus on all of them to place high enough in all of those events so everyone feels like they're contributing.
So that the teams stay together.
Yeah.
So that they do know each other well and
Yeah, and they move around. You got to get the fast guys, and so we switch them around. The varsity 8 or the JV 8. Those can kind of bounce around a little bit, and hopefully you figure out the right combo by the end of the year.
Good. So at one point you said you had done some recruiting, or your bio said you did recruiting, but at UCSB you don't recruit, or do you go out and look for people?
Yeah, so when I was at Marietta, we did have some admissions assistants. So yeah, we would call high school coaches. We'd go to regattas and pass out information and stay in touch. Can't do that at UC. I mean, I could do that, but I can't get anybody in. So we really just use the on-campus stuff. We have a festival in the fall, and we would set up a booth, and people would sign up, and we have informational meetings and tryouts. But yeah, I can't I can't tell a high school kid I'm going to get them in. So.
But you have tryouts. That's that's important. So you see how they behave out on the water and.
Yeah, well, actually, when I say tryout, it's more for them to try it to see if they like it.
Good. That's great.
And the coxswain. So yeah, unfortunately, the coxswain doesn't need to be terribly fit, but the coxswain does need to have the trust of the rowers. So they do. They'll get on the ergs. They'll go to the weight training sessions. So they'll do all that stuff. But they definitely don't need the same level of fitness as the rowers.
And are the coxswains women, or did you have, it's always all men and all women?
A lot of our coxswains are women. It's not exclusive or a requirement. Sometimes you just, I mean, getting a 125-pound, college man is just rare. So that's why a lot of times, the coxswains are just women by default, but it's not a requirement they need to be men or women.
Wow, good. Excellent. All right. Wow. That's quite exciting.
Yeah, anyone else?
And how far into your PhD are you?
So I'll be finishing up the coursework this spring, and then moving into the qualifying exams in the summer, and then the dissertation after that. So you could say both far and not very far at the same time.
Okay. Very good. And what's your hope for the future when you finish your PhD, or do you?
Yeah, I mean, I really like the school year. I mean, I'd like to keep in, higher ed administration. I'd like to keep coaching. Maybe an athletic directorship, down the road. Maybe write a paper. really, I do it out of, sort of self-interest, and satisfaction, and curiosity. So yeah, I'm not totally sure, but just loosely want to stay in higher education.
Good, good, good. All right.
Sounds like you made your vocation your vacation.
Yes, it really is. I like to think that my work is part of who I am, which allows it to have extreme satisfaction. But at the same time, when you have a bad day at work, you really have some extreme self-doubt. If I have a bad practice, I leave going, God, what's wrong with me? What am I doing with my life? But when I have a good day or we have a good race, man, you're over the moon.
I have a couple questions. Do you run co-ed teams?
So we're a co-ed club, but the events are just men and just women. So yeah, just the men row and the men's events, but yeah, we run a co-ed club.
How often do you get new boats, and what are they made of?
Carbon fiber. We probably get a boat every year, every other year. The men got a couple of boats, back in 2018. And then in 2019, the women got a boat. And then, and so yeah, it kind of typically goes back and forth, depending on donors. But yeah, they're made of carbon fiber, and yeah, just light and stiff. And so.
Mhm. Good. All right. Well, this is fascinating. I'm sorry that the places that you go to compete are so far away.